This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Sunset Safari. As you can see, we have started with something of a bang. A big elephant bull who is now walking past us on your very own live safari. We're still here with our elephant bull, obviously. I hope you're all having a good afternoon or morning or evening, wherever you happen to find yourselves on our very flying planet, a planet that we're doing our very best to destroy, but which hopefully through a connection with nature that you are receiving and that I am receiving by being in nature, we are mitigating to some extent. My name is James Henry. On camera today, the great gangster hoodlum from the Pretoria East, Niels de Klerk. And we're enjoying our Saturday afternoon thoroughly here on the western fringes of the Greater Kruger National Park at Djuma Private Game Reserve. We shall be joined by Ngala Private Game Reserve, also in a similar longitude. We'll be joined in the deserts of Tswalu and the Kalahari, the grasslands and savannas of the Masai Mara in Kenya. And where else? Oh yes, the magnificent sand forests and various other habitat types of Maputa land in KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. Please do talk to us during the course of the safari. Allow me to get out of the way using the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter. Alternatively, you may use the email address kidsquestions@wildearth.tv, or you can go to our website and there's a question asking mechanism there, wildearth.tv. Niels, tell me when I can sit up. Let me Okay. Phew, I'm back in the driver's seat. He's a magnificent old bull, this. He's not old, he's probably in his prime. I'd say he's about 35 to 40 years old. And he's been extremely tolerant of us. He hasn't reacted to us in any way. Hello, Spas. What do I like most about observing elephants? I think that the feeling they give me, Spas, they make me feel, normally, if they're behaving like this chap is, just a tremendous sense of honour, really. You know, that such an enormous creature would allow me to be around him while he carries on with what he's doing. I think is just, it's humbling. And I think that's the most interesting part of watching elephants for me, that something so big and powerful and potentially, obviously very dangerous, potentially, is so gentle in many respects and is so tolerant of us in a situation like this. So that's my favourite part of it, I think. And Spas, you will know, because you've been watching for a very long time, that we've had some astonishing elephant sightings where the entire vehicle's been surrounded by elephants, and all of them have just been kind of getting on with what they're doing, and maybe a calf will come and investigate us a little bit. And it's a very connective wilderness experience, that. So I think that's my favourite part of viewing elephants, especially big chaps like this, because they're not very social. They don't spend a lot of time with each other. And while some young bulls are quite curious about the vehicles, and they'll come and say hello to us and kind of almost seek out the presence of the vehicle when it comes past, simply because I think they get a bit bored. The big bulls like this don't. And so when they're prepared to let us be in their proximity for this length of time, it's just very humbling, and it's a great experience. It's a hot afternoon out here. I'd say it's about 32 or 33 degrees Celsius. So it's not blindingly hot by any stretch, but it's hot. And so we'll do a few patrols of the waterholes during the course of the afternoon. Our main goal, if I dare say it, is to go and find Tandi's cub. Lots of tracks around the Torchwood camp earlier today, so we'll head east and see if we can't pick up on where those went, because I haven't seen the little cub for the last month. And I feel that is not good for my psyche. It's not good for my soul, my spirit, my general well-being. Taylor, you're just 4 years old, and you've asked a good question, and it's a question that gets asked a lot, you know. The elephant can't use its trunk as a straw, no. You must imagine that if it did try and use its trunk as a straw, it would be like you taking a straw, pushing it up your nose, and then sniffing up whatever you were drinking, and please don't do that. I'm sure you've experienced it when you've got water in your nose, maybe when you've been in a bath or in a pool or something like that, and it's a very unpleasant feeling of having water in your nose. And it would be similar for the elephant. So they suck it up into the trunk, and then they blow it out into their mouths. So, no, they can't use they can't drink through the trunk, but they do use the trunk to drink. I hope that explains it. He's eating little saplings of buffalo thorn, very popular tree for elephants, and a tree that has adapted to coping with being savaged by them on a regular basis. And I suspect these little saplings' parent is up and to the left. There's a big Ziziphus that's been broken down many times, and I'm sure that it has spawned these little ones, possibly with the help of another one somewhere else. think what we'll do is leave this old fella to enjoy his lunch, and we'll head off towards the east and see if we can find those leopards.
Greeting everyone. Good afternoon from Djuma Private Game Reserve this afternoon, where it's shiny, a little warmer. It looks like it's all going to be a very interesting afternoon. We're just going to spend time visiting quite a lot of Waterhole here to see if there is anything for us. My name's Andrew. On camera I have Gerard this afternoon. So this is how we're going to be taking you to your afternoon venture safari. It's quite hot out here, 34 degrees, 94 Fahrenheit, which most animals, they will be still in shade for sure, but we're going to be working on the north into Bablusuk, one of the property out there, search for probably wild dogs. And then, of course, but it's always a very good idea to see what could be in the Waterhole. As you can see, these Egyptian geese is also, they are around the water. And Egyptian geese, you also sometimes find them away from the water, and they all feed on short shoots of grasses, and they would pick up sometimes these little shoots of mushroom that take places around the Waterhole also, and they will eat on anything they can. Worms can be sometimes comes very noisy bird when they're threatened, especially looks like right now it's all okay because looks like all coupled in there, male and a female. But when other male arrive, it's a lot of noise because these male here won't be happy with the presence of surprise of arrival of another male. It results on fighting because it's always about winning females and dominating the area. See how this bird also scanning up in the air because they're vulnerable to bird of prey. Big bird of prey out here can take that. Such a big bird like this, weighed like 2.2 kilogram, would be martial eagle. Tawny eagle as well, but mainly martial eagle will do it immediately right there. So cool sound where most of birds are still in shade, but communication is still going on, and they will be flying out of this shade whenever it's cooling off. For them to come to drink into this very Waterhole would be a good idea. And that would be a good idea for so many of the other herbivores, such as well as the carnivores, to visit the Waterhole once it's cooled off. So I'm going to move further north, search for wild dogs. Hopefully we get lucky out there while I'm taking you over another live safari.
Right, our elephant has come a lot closer to us now. He's picked something else to eat. He's now only about 5 meters or so away. He's totally relaxed. It's not like he's threatened at all. So I'm very comfortable where we are here. It is really quite an awesome feeling. Mm-hmm. Hello, James and David, aged 3 and 5. They've got hair on the back of their tails, we think, because it's like a fly swatter. It just helps them to get rid of the itches and that sort of thing that's on their skin. But other than that, you know, they can survive very happily without it, so I don't think it makes a huge difference to them. You might find that way back when their ancestors had either, or probably much longer hair that did serve as a fly swatter of some kind, but that over the thousands of years that they've evolved, which you don't need to really worry about, you'll find that those hairs would have got shorter and shorter. So I don't think they serve an enormous purpose, actually, at the moment. I don't want to start the car and move, because he's so relaxed that I think, you know, if we start the car and move around him, I don't think he's going to be that pleased. So we'll just leave him. And he's so close to us. Well, Hannah, it certainly seems to be true that elephants are emotionally connected to each other. They have got enormous brains. They've got a lot of connections in their brains, and those connections help the elephants to be very social with each other. They're highly communicative. So yes, I think that it would be fair to say that they are very emotional. I'm just going to go forward a bit. He's moved away a little. It's so wonderful when an elephant comes that close, and it's important that you respect and kind of almost thank them for it by not starting the engine and moving around and making a big noise when they're close by like that. Just let him move away a bit so that he doesn't feel irritated or threatened by us. We'll just have another quick look here. He's wandering off. I think he'll probably try and go and find something to drink now. Maybe some mud. We'll have one last look here. Very quiet afternoon, just a robin or two going. And the buzz of some cicadas. And now a Cape turtle dove. Peter, it's probably about a 50-50 ratio, males to females. I don't see why it would be any other way. It's not like more male calves die or get killed by, big rival males. Maybe slightly fewer males, but by and large it'll be a 50% ratio. Females living in groups, bulls living on their own, like this guy, or in small temporary groups. All the day, walking, eating, drinking, walking, eating, drinking, eating, walking, eating. Jenna, I don't actually know the answer to that question, I'm afraid. I'm sure somebody's going to tell you, though. I don't know how big an elephant's heart is. Big, for sure. what's the statistic that a blue whale's heart is the size of a Volkswagen Beetle? Something like that. I'm afraid I don't know how big an elephant's heart is, Jenna. I'll have to look it up. All right, I think we're going to leave him. He's wandering off into the thick stuff. And we'll thank him by letting him be. Cheers, old fella.
Welcome to Tswalu Kalahari. Another beautiful hot day here in the Kalahari. Looking at temperatures of about 34, 35 this afternoon. My name is Obakeng, and behind the camera there we've got Dave doing a very excellent job. I've been trying to look around here, just trying to find tricks and see what happened to our cheetah. It looks like they've moved a little bit from here into the west. I'm gonna let that go and embark on a new trekking journey, see if we can find some lions this afternoon. So that's what we'll be looking for this afternoon. Wherever we're going to find them, I think they are going to be in the shade somewhere, maybe close to water, and I'm being very, very hopeful this afternoon. So yeah, join us and let's embark on this search. Michelle, I'm laughing because yesterday I was answering a question very similar to that about what is my favorite tree or what is my favorite thing in the wild. And unfortunately for me, I really don't have a favorite, or I try to refrain from choosing and saying this is my favorite out in the wild. I would regard myself more as a nature lover, but what I will tell you that stands out for me, and this has been through my career, is those interactions that we seldomly see. Those are things that really stick out, and those are things I really look forward to when I'm out here. So I'll give you an example about what I'm talking about when I say interactions. So, for example, you'd be going out, you start seeing the ant-eating chat flying about, but then in the back of your head something tells you, the way this ant-eating chat is flying, or it's doing, something is not right. Let me investigate. And when you do investigate, it leads you to probably something like an aardvark or a pangolin in a barrow or something like that. Those for me are things that really stick out. The one morning we had baboons shouting in the valley and screaming, and we had been looking for leopard, and we were very hopeful that they were screaming and shouting for leopard. And we investigated, we went into this valley and we were searching and we were looking with binoculars, and we couldn't really make out what these baboons were really screaming and shouting for. And as I looked at the corner of my eye, I actually saw wild dogs running, and there were 4 big males chasing these wild dogs around, and that is the interaction. So things like that for me are things that really stick out, things that you don't really get to see on the norm. So yeah, those would be my highlights, if I can call them, but not really my favorite animals. Or so those would be the bigger highlights that I look out for. I mean, sometimes you experience things that you come back and you talk to your colleagues about, guys, this is what I saw out on drive. And funny enough, you find guys that have been guiding longer than what you have, and they go, wow, I would like to have seen that. I've never seen that in my life. And those, for me, just cherry on the top. So I hope that answers your question and satisfies the curiosity in what you are trying to find out. But yeah, that's it about me and what I like. So yeah, let's carry on and try find these lions. Let's keep moving. There is a watering hole just close by. Do a quick search there and see. Maybe we find some tracks there. Maybe we find something that will lead us somewhere. I'm just gonna drive along and see what we do find as we do that, just to try and keep with time. Megan, with the rock stars, we could try them, but chances are now the rock stars would be foraging. So we'd have to try see from where they went from the barrow. So with things like your meerkats, they've got about a 3 kilometer square foraging area or territory. So within any of that area, they could have gone in any direction. So that's why it's always the best to try get them in the morning when we know exactly which barrow they had gone down in, and then in the morning you wait for them to wake up and you can follow them into their daily activity when they do a bit of housekeeping, when they start cleaning those barrows, and when they start looking out, looking for danger, and that communication when the ones that are on the lookout starts calling the others that are still underneath the ground, just to let them know that it's safe, they can come out, and you actually see that interaction. That what makes it very interesting and worth following. But in the afternoon, chances are wait until the sun almost hits the horizon and they're starting to come back to their barrows, and that's when you can get to see a little bit of interaction and see where they've been coming from or what they have been up to during the day. But for a time like now, it's still very hot. They could be far from the barrow. Yeah, it could be difficult to try and find them. Yeah, we are very close to the dam now. I just want to see what is around the dam. How spectacular is our rainbows here? Our rainbows are quite good here, given the fact that when we do get storms, sometimes you find the one end of the horizon is actually still sunny, and that gives way to big rainbows. Sometimes we do get what we call double rainbows, so you'd get a reflection of a rainbow after the rainbow has set, and it looks like it's two rainbows coming out, but it's just a reflection of the dominant rainbow. So what we have here by the water, we've got some giraffe. So I'll just try position for Dave to get a perfect shot for us here with a giraffe. Don't go away, guys. Another elegant walk there. I mean, never get tired of how these guys move. It's like gliding through air when they do move. Obviously being a little bit inquisitive of us now. That's why they're giving us that stare. Just trying to figure out if we are a threat or what's happening. But always around water, you find animals behaving like this. It's a very sensitive area because that's where they can get caught off guard. So they have to really, really be on alert there. look at that walk, all left, all right. But you'll notice when they do run, they'll change that movement to all front, all back, and that's where the name actually comes from, Giraffe camelopardus. Giraffe coming from Hindi, referring to he who walks swiftly, and camelo taking a body of a camel, and lepidus referring to those spots right there that you see, and this is your southern giraffe. There's 4 main species of giraffe divided into 9. Beautiful specimens. Mac, are all giraffe patterned unique like zebras? Definitely yes. All giraffe are patterned differently, and also what's very interesting about that is with the species, as I've mentioned that there's 4 species divided into 9, with each subspecies the different patterning of the blocks. So as you can see with this one, it almost looks like a hexagon or a block. You find others that almost look like a leaf. So there's different forms of those blotches or those blocks, and that's what defines them to be different species and subspecies. And also the height of the different subspecies, that's what denotes them to be subspecies or different species. Look at those long eyelashes. I mean, everything for a specific need. You'd wonder why they would have these, but I mean, think about an animal that has to eat in areas where it's thorny and so on, and stick their heads in bushes. Once anything touches those eyelashes, they know they can't go further, but then they've got the advantage of having this very, very long tongue. It's about 45 centimeters long, and they can get the leaves further from where they've stuck their head. So everything for a specific reason with these guys, and filling a specific niche right there for them. Sinek, what species of trees do giraffe feed on in the Kalahari? Now, your most common species of tree here would be your camel thorn, and it's what used to be called the acacias, but now they've switched to vachilias. So just a quick one on that. The vachilias are trees with thorns that are long and almost make a V. That's a very easy way to remember. Whereas the Senegalia species are the trees that have the hooked thorns. So your your camel thorn would be your Vachilia uroloba, taken from the Acacia uroloba, and they've got these bipinnately compound leaves, meaning it's a small leaf that's been split into 2, and that's what they would actually be feeding on predominantly. But there's also the shepherd's tree that they will also feed on. So those are the 2 prominent trees that you find in the Kalahari, and the giraffe would definitely feed on those. We don't have a lot of broad-leaved trees in the Kalahari. As you can imagine, it's a very arid area, so thorns compensate for that, and also having to help the tree to protect itself. So those are the 2 most prominent. Beautiful. As they walk away there, a journey of giraffe. And when they're standing, it's a neck, a tower, or an elevation of giraffe. On that note, we are going to be sending you off to another beautiful location in Africa, and we're going to continue and try find those cats.
I'm just going to quickly go forward one sec, a little bit. There's this francolin shouting its head off. And I thought there was water here, but there isn't. Niels, it's at the base of that little termite mound there. You see it there? Just go to zoom in on the base of that termite mound. Yeah, just zoom in center frame. Right a bit. Right. Keep going. Down. And right, up. There we are, you got him. Now, that is an alarm call. He has seen something that has made him deeply upset. The fact that he is not attempting to get into a tree indicates to me that it was a ground-based predator, but nothing quite as large as a leopard. I could be wrong. Could be a snake, could be a mongoose. Those are the two candidates I'd pick. Could be a leopard. There's another francolin coming to join him and check what all the fuss is about. And the third one. There's a whole covey of them. Now no longer panicked by anything. Could also have been freaked out by a bird of prey that flew over the top or flew overhead. Now they're investigating the mud. It looks like a sort of little group of slightly clueless old men who are fossicking around for something they don't really understand, if you know what I mean. They don't really, there's nothing there, it's just mud, but they're all kind of digging about and saying, oh, well, I wonder what's here. Yes, very interesting piece, that. Oh, yes, I agree. Joseph, what? Yes, oh, absolutely, Nathaniel. I think it's a beautiful piece of mud you found here. And now they're wandering off in shame. They always seem to be slightly nonplussed by life.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to andBeyond Phinda this afternoon. We have come out into the open areas to try and see if we can find that cheetah and her two cubs from this morning who are looking to hunt. And on the way, we found these three rhino just standing out in the heat. My name's Ross, and behind the camera today is Craig. And as I said to you before, this is andBeyond Phinda, and it's a very, very hot afternoon here in northern Zululand. And the wind is picking up, which is very kind of characteristic of this kind of time of year, in spring going into summer in KZN or KwaZulu-Natal. And yeah, the wind does pose a bit of a problem to these rhinos. That's why they're looking a little bit anxious. You see how they're just standing in one place, not really feeding, not really doing anything, just kind of standing around and listening. They're just making sure that there's no danger around them, because even though they are big and they're very difficult for most predators to consider trying to take down and kill, that young rhino calf that's with his mom. Oh, did you see that little warthog that they just almost ran over? Jeepers. close. Yeah, that rhino calf could easily fall victim to attack from a pride of lions if he was separated from his mom. So they still have to keep extra vigilant. And I don't know if you saw how he was trotting in front of his mother there. That's one of the behavioral differences of white rhino to black rhino. White rhino, the calves walk either alongside or in front of their mother through the open grassland where they normally are found. And black rhino usually follow their mother from behind because they live in a much denser, thicker vegetation. These rhino are now just disappearing behind a few thickets. I'm going to try reposition a little bit to see better. We're just having a few technical issues with the vehicle out here. There we go. On the 6th click it started. I'm just going to go around. They've gone behind a big rock fig. This area is pretty rocky. There's some beautiful rock figs growing out of the terrain here. They actually wedge themselves between rocks and grow out of the cracks between rocks. It's quite amazing. I'm just going to stop here. They're about to come out of the tree line. Okay. How cute is that little calf? And I don't know if you can see, the mum has 2 bumps on her nose because she's been dehorned, and she usually has 2 horns, which even when she's dehorned, they'll grow back within 2 years completely. They are made of keratin, which is the same substance as what our fingernails are made of, so they grow back, and it's harmless for them to be dehorned. But the little calf only has 1 little horn, and they only start growing their horn at about a year old, their 2nd horn. So he's at least not even a year old. So Luke has asked, at what age will the baby rhino be dehorned? And I think it'll probably be around 2 or 3 years old, because for young animals we want to stress them out as little as possible, and the dehorning process is a bit of a stressful process. Short term it's a darting and then they go to sleep, and then you just take off their horns quickly in about a 3 or 4 minute process and then wake them up. But for youngsters it can be quite stressful, so we'll wait for them to be 2 or 3, because while they're still dependent on their mom, imagine if a young rhino woke up before his mother, because you'd have to dart them at the same time and put them both to sleep and dehorn them at the same time. If he's too young and wakes up before his mother, there could be a lot of stress to see his mother sort of immobile, and you might even not be able to find her, be a bit disorientated. So not anytime soon, I don't think. I think about 1.5 years, and that's why her horn is actually starting to grow out a little bit as well, into a bit of a rounded point. I'm trying to have a look. It's these 3 rhinos. One is a mother and a calf, as we've been discussing, and then the other rhino is, I can't really tell from this angle, but from the size of it and the size of its neck and its head, it looks like a bull. So I think this is just a bull maybe hanging around this female to suss out whether she is ready to mate, or if her calf is still too young. You'll be able to tell that, and he might hang around here just for a few hours, and they'll feed together for a little bit, dutifully, and then when he realizes that he is with calf and won't be ready to mate for at least a year or two, he will probably go about his own way. So I think our plan today is to keep on searching for these cheetah that we saw this morning. They have moved from the place where we left them, so I think they might have maybe looked to hunt in the middle of the day if maybe some animals had come past. So we are going to explore these open areas and try and find them. But for now, we are going to send you off to another beautiful African location.
Great, back with us again. So we're still on a process of heading into the last places where I thought this morning they saw wild dog. It's quite actually a long way out. We try a few waterhole around us, see if there's anything there we'll be drinking, but nothing yet with this. I think the temperature is still slightly way too hot for the animal to arrive into the waterhole. So we're going to be still heading slightly. We're actually working on the north into Babelstook this afternoon. And this is we'll probably just going to move on and see what else we see.
Bad luck. Sorry about that. I suspect what happened was that Andrew went on to Buffelshoek and Rusty failed to perform in a manner that is acceptable. We shall beat her thoroughly when we get back and not give her any supper. No oil for her. Right, let me find you something of biological worth to show you. Try not to be flung out of the vehicle at the same time. No, nothing of particular biological interest in this. Ah, yes, there we go. I've just seen something. Niels, don't worry, I'll bring it to you. Otherwise, I'm going to park you in the shade. Oh, dear. I seem to have left my radio behind. No? The other radio. We're all okay. Hang on, everyone. I'm just getting you a piece of fruit. A piece of fruit you'll be so amazed at. This is, for many of you, a familiar fruit. It is the fruit that tastes of a roast chicken and apple crumble meal at the same time. There it is. It is, of course, the beautifully named Cissus cornifolia, the bushman's grape, or in the other South African language of Afrikaans, it is known as the pertipus, or the horse's urine. This is the most apt name because it really does not smell good at all. But its fruit is quite pleasant, and so I shall taste it for your edification, entertainment, and amusement. I don't know how ripe this one is. This one is not ripe at all, and therefore tastes like a chewy and particularly bitter lemon. There it is, Cissus cornifolia. We're now nearing the eastern boundary, whereupon we shall, the eastern boundary of Djuma, and then we'll head down to the Waterhole at Torchwood, which is where the tracks of Thandi and her baby were left this morning. Rexon, who's tracking her, reckons that she has a cub, not a cub, a kills. Zay, you want to know if the animals are going to eat dinner soon? I'm going to assume that you're one of our younger viewers. They eat all the time, depending on what kind of animal they are. And they don't always eat dinner. Sometimes they don't eat at all in the evening. So the cats, some of the big cats, will eat once every 4 days sometimes. I know one animal is definitely going to try and have dinner tonight. because they always have a meal around about dinner and around about breakfast, and that's the wild dogs. They like to keep a schedule with their eating. Most of the herbivores will come out just before sort of dinner time, and they will graze and browse and have their evening meal sort of, I suppose, up until about 6 o'clock, and then they'll stop. Now, there's a little baby impala. That's very sweet. I think can hardly walk. It's so new. It's disappeared already, I'm afraid. We got a brief view. But a lot of animals, they will just eat all the time. Let me just go back a bit. Oh, there we go. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Tiny little thing. Hi. See how it can hardly stand? It was probably born this morning. Let's hope it survives. The attentions of all the predators who are very excited about this time of the year. Looked like a starling jumping down, or floating down. Was it? Can't actually see it with my naked eye. Anyway, I'm just going to roll back quickly. I think it was an impala that I saw up on the cut line here. It was. Okay, let's carry on. Down towards the waterhole. Keeping an eye out for tracks as we go. I can hear a nediki calling now. I don't know how many of you are vaguely interested in whether I can hear a nediki calling or not. But it's... Ooh, it's quite a tricky one, this. So what that bird sounds like is half a nediki, which shouldn't have the second note, and half a Steeling's wren warbler, which should have another 2 notes attached to it. But I think from the tone of this bird, I'm going to say that it's a Steeling's wren warbler. And they're very difficult to see. A Steeling's wren warbler. Should probably depress the clutch as we move on. Be on the top of that marula tree somewhere, but to try and search for it will be a painful experience with the camera. You'll all get very seasick while we do it. Now we must pay very close attention to the tops of the marula trees in the hopes that whatever Tundi has killed has been stashed up in one of the trees. Group of cisticolas flying off. Another bird up here. You see the bird there, Niels? It's a red-billed buffalo weaver. That's quite cool. And they make those big blocks of flats, of sort of dead sticks. This one seems to have no friends. Oh, he got one friend. There's one friend of his on this tree. And they're foraging here. They'll be looking for insects to eat. Although they are sort of, really, they are more seed eaters, I would have thought. Oh no, he doesn't have a friend, he's on his own. The other bird is a Cape glossy starling. So the poor old weaver, who's supposed to be a colonial dweller, is on his own. Are we still live? Just trying to find out if we're still live. Okay, good, we are. Just hadn't heard anything for a while. Okay, let's move on from here. We'll just drift down the road, keeping an eye out for various bits and pieces. Ooh, there was a Morocco sunbird. That was stupid of me. It would have been really nice to see. That was too slow, however.
Right everyone, look what we found. Just on our journeys to find the cheetah, we found this beautiful black-bellied bustard. Just walking through the grass looking to feed. And he's slowly walking away, and look how he moves his neck, his snake-like neck. And what he's looking for is grasshoppers or lizards or any other kind of small vertebrates or invertebrates that he could possibly eat. And all he does is walk through the grass until he finds something like that, and then he'll just gobble it up. I'm just going to reposition very quickly. He's coming out behind that tuft of grass. You can see him in all his glory. There he is. So now look, watch him, listen, turn up your volume. I don't know if you heard that, but that was him making his call. When he put back his head like that, he makes a call that sounds exactly like a champagne cork coming out of a bottle. So some people call this bird a champagne bird. And it's one of the most signature for me, the sounds that I associate most with the African bush. Whenever I hear it, I get quite chuffed. He's just going in and among these bushes now. He's very relaxed. He's not running away from us, but he is making life a little bit difficult to show you. So you're just going to wait to see if he comes out on the other side of this big bush. There he is. I'd love for him to do his sound for you again. Watch, he's doing it. It almost sounds like a sound that shouldn't come from a bird. It almost sounds like a sound from a cartoon or something. But I'll try and imitate it for you. It sounds like he goes like, wah, and then he winds up, he puts his neck back, and then he goes like that, exactly like that. And yeah, it's like it's very unexpected to hear that sound out in the bush. You think someone's popping champagne. I'm still having technical issues with starting my car here, so you might just have to watch me struggling for a little bit. But he might even come out behind the bush. So for now, while we deal with our car trouble, we're going to send you off to another live location and keep on heading towards the cheetah that we hopefully are going to find somewhere around these open areas.
Alright, so we now find bull elephant. Looks like he's actually nice and dark. It looks like he just came from the swim in one of these waterholes here up north. And there's only one bull, so it could happen that some of the other members are still out of reach for him. He's going to pop out right, slightly close to our vehicle there. You can tell how these tusks are wide or pretty much bright, cleaned from swimming. Though they get dirty because they use them quite often during the feeding the tusk help the trunk very much break off the branches. He decided just to freeze on the other side of these bushes, but he will come out, find some nutritions there. I'm gonna slightly maybe move forward. You can tell how dark it is, so it's probably still wet. But again and again he would actually play with sand, pour sand over himself right to the top. This is all about getting rid of the flies. Who would think that they have very thick skin, layer of a skin, which definitely, yes, they do, but they also feel anything that land on their skin, flies, ticks bite as well. And they all find comfortably of themselves, being separate from the rest of the other member. It makes them be comfortable. Also, take it easy around there. Feed on any of the plants that you want most without being pushed or push someone. Sorry, you want to repeat that question again from Luke? All right, look, sorry, I can't barely to understand your question. I know you mean that the elephant ever have smack, or probably mean maybe broken tusks, or if is that the case, they do definitely break off their tusks. And then it's come from usually when they fight or push over big trees around here. And this is how sometimes it happens when they lost their tusks, and of course doesn't really grow back once it's off, especially this age of this bull we're looking at right now. They use their tusks as a weapon, but also a tool. If you look at this length of these tusks he's got there, one is slightly much longer, the other one is shorter, so it looks like he could be using the one that is shorter always. Can be left or right-handed. In the trunk, it's so important to have. You're able to use it to smell any of the food around here, bushes, trees, grasses. And from there, you were able to pick up which favorite you want. And sometimes during a week, take places. Some of the plants which they have tubers under the ground, which is anything from about maybe 300, 400, 500 inches down below surface, and they were able to smell that as well, and they all turn around and start to dig for that tubers. They don't have to always look at what they feed on. The trunk's job is able to help that animal. Rosalind So, you want to know if elephants ever abandon their babies? They don't really. They're one of the animals that they will care of their babies. And then if that happened, sometimes you found that maybe something happened to the mother and the young one maybe somehow get lost in the mission, which is very rare but if that happened, the whole members will probably look around or communicate with that little one, since they have to make sure that little one rejoin back to the group again. But if it's no response, then in that case, the baby will get lost for maybe a few weeks. If it doesn't actually hooked up with the same group again, and results of being separated for a long time. If it's still under the age where they will be actually still get hunted by lions, this is where they become vulnerable. But yeah, it's very rare for mother to abandon a baby. They're all just very good on how they take care of each other. Of course, many of the animals, not only elephants, but the rest of the other species of animal, wildebeest, they would sometimes abandon their babies. Some animals, sometimes these will move in groups. And once a group, they don't really stop for that female. And then, of course, for her own safe, she might actually keep up with the group, but forgetting that she had a baby that couldn't able to keep up with the group. Finally, that baby left behind. Could be that during a migration also, some animals move place to place. It's better when they do that. They all have their baby full growing up. Jennifer, no, I haven't been charged by elephant, but of course, these animals are one of the animals that can sometimes charge cars, charge human, or anything around them. So it's something to do what the behavior of that animal is. So it's all about understanding the behavior of the animal before you get close to it. Even when you're on foot, distance it counts, because it provides a safety of yourself and also comfortable for the animal at the same time. It needed. So that charging situation comes to in a few different effect, where we all sometimes forget that, this animal is dangerous and we have a gun on foot. Of course, whenever there's a charge, we're probably going to shoot it, or in that case, charge is going to happen, killing is going to happen. So I'm still on my way to that last place where they saw a dog this morning. I'm going to work around there. Hopefully we get you update what's happening while I'm taking you over another live guide.
Welcome back to Tswalu Kalahari. Look what we've found over here. I don't know if the viewers can see that. And it raises questions. It's like, what's this black? Look at that. From there to almost there, on just one stalk of grass. To the viewers out there, maybe somebody can tell us what they think this black mark out here is before I start talking about it. It's a territorial mark, I would say. Yes, it is. And of what species are we actually looking at? Look at that. I mean, look at this big bulge here. There's one evident big bulge, and it's almost white in color. You go further up, you get another big bulge of white there. So from what I could see, I would say it's been used multiple times. That's for sure. And what we're looking at is actually a brown hyena as territorial mark that it has done on this stalk of grass. So what they would do is they would actually walk right over a stalk of grass like this, and as it just touches the rear end, there's a bulb almost that they will push out from their anuses, and that is what the grass would actually start scraping like on that little bulb. And well done, Blue Smoky Past. You got it right. It's a hyena, brown hyena to be specific. You got it. Well done. And as the grass stands, it almost swishes right in between and goes up. And the reason they try to do that at the very end of the stalk is with any olfactory signs or anything that can smell, what the animals will try to do is try make it at a level where it would be at the height of that animal. Now, if you think of hyenas would almost be of that height or of that level, with the front being higher than the lower end, and that's why they would walk over and just almost wait at the end of the stalk. But what this carries is the white parts that I was showing that looks like cuticles right there is actually a timing device. So you can see this has been probably the freshest, and that is already fading away. So it's almost like a timing device for the animal that would be coming through to know how long ago this has been done. But then you almost get two parts, one on top of the timing device and one at the bottom, and those would carry different messages for the hyena, one carrying message for sexual statuses and so on, and the other actually carrying message about what the hyena itself has been through. Is it happy and things like that. So this is all the decoding of that, and as you can see, I'm avoiding touching it. It's a very smelly thing. Can you repeat the question for me there? I missed a bit of it. Does the pasting have an odor to it? It's a very pungent odor, butterfly. So just to make you try understand, I'm going to try paint a picture, and maybe I don't know if you'll understand it. But try taking a rotten egg, soak it in vinegar, leave it in the sun for about a day or two, and open that jar. That's something like that. So it's a very, very pungent smell or odor. A lot of the times when we're actually conducting game drives, half the time, if you have a pregnant lady on the vehicle, they would be the first to pick it up. And interesting enough, just now, before we stopped for this, myself and Dave caught the smell. And I stopped before we pointed it out, and I asked Dave, can you smell that? And he's like, what's that? I was like, hyena paste. And if you're on a walk and you don't watch where your hands are, and this ends up on your hands, ooh, yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. Just ooh, yeah. You got a smell on your hands. You need soap and water to definitely get that out of your hands, and that's why I'm avoiding touching it like that. But a very interesting thing. But also, you'll see this hyena would do this every probably 200-300 meters. You'll find one of these in that kind of a radius. So they'll be walking and patrolling and so on, and every 200-300 meters they'll stop and do one of these. So yeah, a very interesting sign to be on the lookout for when out here in the bush, walking or either doing what we are doing now. So we're still on the trail of finding lions. So I'm gonna leave this brown hyena paste and continue that. Hannah, what keeps me so inspired about nature? So before I started guiding, what happened was I went into the corporate world. And one of the things with the corporate world, and I'm not taking a dig at anybody, just a disclaimer, I'm not a guy to put a tux on and go sell things or be judged on how I look, looking all prim and proper with a tux and a white shirt and a tie. That's one of the first things that took me out of the corporate world. I want to be free. I want to be like this. That's one of the first things. And the second thing with nature is it's not repeating. So every time you go out there, you've got the element of surprise. You don't know what you're going to see, when you're going to see it, and what's going to be happening. Whereas in other fields, you know exactly today is month end. I got to do stock taking. I got to do this. So for me, that didn't work. But the other thing about nature is that you are always learning. Always learning. I would get questions where sometimes I don't even have the answer, or you go back to your teammates and you ask, guys, this is the question I got today, and they go, let's try find out. And sometimes there's no answers to it. There's a few questions where it's a mystery. We'll have to let science do a bit of research there and see what they come up with. And sometimes new evidence comes. You'd be knowing something for a very long time in your career, and all of a sudden somebody does a better study on it, or there's a better way of looking at it, and you find new things. Let's use an example here. Why do zebras have black and white stripes? It's a thing that is continuously studied. It's gone from it helps with heating and cooling. It's gone to it helps with the insects or the ectoparasites with the warmer parts being the black. It's gone, so it has progressed over time, and you get these different theories about it. And for me, that's what keeps nature so interesting. I mean, you go out also, it has this calming effect on me. It really does has this calming effect. So it's all of those components put together about nature, and that's what I enjoy. The art of trekking, where you go out and it's like you are cracking a scene, where you just come down, you look at the trek, and you're like, this is what happened, and the reason I'm saying this, all of that coming together. It's like, wow, come on guys, come on. It's like, yeah, let's do it. There is a bit of treks here. They're not the freshest, but they're heading us in the right direction. I'm hoping as we progress going forth, we'll pick up fresher tracks of these lion. Looks like it was a pride that was heading in the easterly direction. So I am going to be continuing in that direction. And yeah, follow us. Let's do it. So while we follow on these tracks, I'll send you off to another very beautiful location in Africa.
Thanks, Obi. So we arrived into this area where we thought we were going to have a look around for the wild dogs. Very interesting bird out there is ostrich, male ostrich, far from us. And then looks like it's busy feeding out there. I only see one. It happens maybe it's more of them. We only found out by maybe when we got closer, when we got time for it. The ostrich out here, they're not so relaxed. They'll probably run away. And we don't see actually many of them. So privileged to come up this far north, where we're close to Manyeleti boundary, and it's more a lot of open area. And this is where these birds most like to be around, and where they can see better. And they only forage during the day. At night, and they all just rest, sleep with their necks straight up. course, they become vulnerable to lions, leopard. He just went behind the bush there. But also they're not actually very territorial. See many males sometimes mixed with the females, but it's always the dominant male in charge of the females. Where females should be slightly brown in color, where males a lot dark in color. And they eat pretty much leaves, new shoots of grasses, wild flowers. Disappear into this wood, and there is no road, but probably they'll ever come out again because they're doing a lot of movement there. Yeah, there it is. We've got there still. Got to be only one male sometimes. And I do kind of make very interesting call where you would think could be maybe lines and the far distances. This is all about communications. Can you repeat the question again for a moment? Amanda, thank you so much for the question. You want to know if these birds have a crop just like the other bird. And along their throat, they have kind of like a little pouch. When this is when they feed, all food goes straight, kind of like a very swollen throat they got. This is also when they drink water, allows the water to stuck just before they strain it up for your neck, for the water to slide down into their tummy. So they're slightly more different to most other birds, ostriches. And where you find some normal birds where you find they actually digesting is kind of very strong, where we're able to digest some kind of even little stones, where these can't, due to their weak digestions. So when they defecate, also they defecate with a lot of liquid, which is actually a lot of a liquid come out of the poop at the same time when they defecate, where most birds come very hard slightly. Oh, looks like two of them there. The female also in the area. It looks like they're going to disappear back into Mangaleti that way, because they're now moving kind of like northwards instead of coming towards us. And I doubt, we now trekking around here for the wild dogs. If there is a wild dog here, and then of course seeing these two birds, we'll be very much interested on chasing them down. They're all able to defend themselves, but not against the male lion or other big cats like leopard, lions. But any attack that takes place, they have very prominent nailed claw which they're able to protect themselves. and they can run fast, which they usually balance using their wings. And when they do that, they have to use such a speed, and then all they do with the wings is just all trying to balance, and while they're focusing on getting out immediately. So I'm going to see if I can get close to that bird, otherwise we're in an area of looking around for these dogs.
Well, a very exciting afternoon for us on this hot day, as we have found a lion, a young male lion, sitting in the shade of a tree, which is quite cool. It's been a long time since we've seen some male lions. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today, as always, is BK. We're here at Prrivate's Conservancy, which is part of the Greater Kruger as well as Black-bellied Game Reserve. Now, I'm not sure yet which lion this is, but I suspect it's one of two brothers that we have seen in the past, but I haven't seen them for many, many months now. But let's have a closer look. From what I can remember, unfortunately, I recently wiped my mobile device, and I don't have any ID shots of the two boys together. Is the two young boys, one had very tatty ears, and the other one, and I suspect he was the one that also had the injury to one of his legs, where he was struggling to walk. So I've just actually asked if anyone could send me some pictures so we can compare and have a quick look. But we'll wait for that. But we've kept our distance this afternoon, as I don't want him to go charging off, as they've been notorious for being quite nervous. And I don't know how many vehicles while, but normally we just see their tracks, and we don't often get to spend very much time with them. But hopefully they come back into the western corner of Pridelands, where we used to see them fairly regularly, which will be quite nice. But there's only one lion here, so I don't know where the other male is. But if you have been watching for quite some time, and you do remember these two young male lions that I have told you, that Mike has showed you, that I have showed you, then please let us know. Send some screenshots in if you've got of the two of them. I know we've had some nice sightings of the two of them together, and it would be really great to do a little comparison. You could see on both of his ears, but particularly his left ear, it was quite sort of tatty, whether the flies have bitten them quite badly, or maybe just from scrapping over carcasses. Ears always tend to get quite damaged. But I'm going to keep my voice down, and we're not going to stay here for too long either. We'll come back a little bit later. There are many people on safari this afternoon here at Pridelands, and there are lots of excited guests who want to see this beautiful big cat. So you know what we like to do. We like to sit and spend time with these animals, so we'll let everybody come in and view them, and then once they've finished with their sightings, then we'll hopefully be free to come and spend a fair amount of time, should he still be around. So after this, I think we'll probably head around towards Leopard Dam and see if we can't do our usual pool party with the elephants and maybe some buffalo. And I have seen Susan and her herd today, so I'd like to find those elephants in particular. Oh, well, I'm glad that you're all very excited to see this lion. Yeah, it's been some time, hey? And I think maybe he's felt comfortable to push back onto Pridelands because the two big male lions, the Masungulo males, that have taken over what we call the Ngati Pride, which is a pride of lions that has somewhere between 8 or 9 lionesses. There's at least 11 cubs at the moment, which is exciting. I got to see, how many cubs did I see? 7 of the cubs the other day. And just recently there was a couple of lionesses with 11 cubs. And we're seeing just off of our traverse, just on Jijani, which is on our northern boundary. Now, in case you don't know what happened, I'll just do a very quick recap, seeing as though the tale of this boy and one of his brothers hasn't been told for a while. But they were pushed out about a year ago when the Masungulo male lions pushed on in, and those two big males ended up killing a lioness. They ate her. They gave these two youngsters a hiding, as you could imagine, so they... And we also think that that's what happened with Lagatha, the lone lioness, is that there must have been an altercation there, and she also got out of there as quick as she can, because it's quite unusual for a lioness to push out at such a young age and spend some time on her own. And we have seen her interact with the other lionesses. Apologies, everyone. I've got severe audio issues today. It might be the heat. Who knows what it might be? But hopefully you got the gist of that. But he's not going to do much. He's pretty much just going to sleep there like that. Under the shade. It's very, very hot today. And I'm sure a little bit later he will get moving. We probably drove past him today at some point. He could have just been laying up in some denser vegetation. You can also hear all the cicadas and other insects all chirping. Always an indication that it is hot, hot, hot. So I'm just having a look at some pictures that are coming through now. Thank you very much to Picky on Twitter, who sent me some pictures. I reckon that the one that we're looking at is the one with the injury on his foot, because I'm pretty sure he was the one with the tatty ears, but perhaps you can recall better what I said. Sometimes I tend to have a goldfish memory. But we're going to say goodbye to him for now, and hopefully he'll be around a little bit later.
Do you still have them? We just had a glimpse of a sandgrass with little chicks. I just want to see if we can just get that view again. But these chicks must have just hatched, I'd say, a day or two. Very, very tiny little things. I'm just going to try reposition here. Sorry. They're just behind camouflages. We've done so well to camouflage just in between. There they are. There's one. Tiny little things. Must have just hatched, I'd say, early today. It's still wobbly. Look at that. And camouflage well on their side. There's the second one coming through. They just camouflaging with the bushes there, and obviously being ground nesters, they have to camouflage like that. But the interesting thing is, this female would be able to actually fly towards water and carry some back for these chicks and try cool them. And also when they incubate, that's how they'll also try keep the eggs cool and not overheating from the heat reflecting from the sand. So they've got a very interesting form of patch in front of their chest, where the feathers there don't have a full capsulated shaft, but the water molecule just fills it back and make it a full capsule. And when they fly, the water sticks on that on those shaft, and they can bring them back for either those eggs or for the chicks. And coming back, the chicks might actually at times pickle and suckle on the little, for a little bit of moisture. But that was very, very nice to find. Still gonna continue on these lion tracks. They've got fresher. Butterfly, they're very, very adorable. Probably this is my second set of chicks I've seen out here in the wild. So it's quite not a common sight to see, because obviously they hide them very well. Most cases you start seeing them is when the feathers have started gaining a bit of color, and so seeing them as young as that is a big wow. So yeah, we'll continue on this road. The tracks have gone a little bit fresher. Looks like they're taking us straight to a watering hole, so let's keep following. Whilst we follow on these tracks, I'm gonna send you off to another very beautiful location in Africa.
And we are also continuing to follow our animals. We found tracks of Thandi, and I'm afraid we have not found her yet. And so what I'm doing for this particular segment is climbing my favorite tree out here, which is the low-folk milkberry, because it's like a fairy tale tree. It's not a very fairy tale climbing tree, mind, but there it is. Hello! Are you impressed, Niels? Very much, he says. Good. Fantastic. It's difficult to impress a gangmaster from Pretoria, but there it is. And it's called a milkberry because it has a berry that is, well, milky. And, in fact, you can see the milk or the latex in the leaves. And I think that the reason actually that it's my favorite tree was the very first one I learnt was on Ngala, the northern sections of Ngala. And it really just looked like something out of a Tolkien novel. And so from then it was my favorite tree. And the fruit's quite sweet. It's not absolutely delicious, but it's quite nice. And so I just thought I'd do a little bit of tree climbing, see if I could get some vantage from which to see Thandi and her baby cub. And as yet I can hear a squirrel shouting, but that's all. So now I shall descend the tree, and if you hear a great rending of branches, you'll know I've fallen.
Welcome back. So we left that ostrich crossing to Manyeleti. A good thing we're able to find our dogs that we were looking for this afternoon. And then for now I can't able to identify them. It looks like it's all about 8 of them there, the adults, what I can count. You know, I only park in this position here where I cannot see all of them since they're in a shade. If it's a Pungwe packs or a different packs, we're able to find out soon once we get around. And they have like probably youngest as well. Like 7 of them. Is one we're looking at them right. They're all just adults. this young one over here. I probably came in from Nyaleti or Kruger National Park, where we are. Kruger National Park boundary is not far away to the east of us, probably 2 kilometers down. So it will make sense, so much of a sense, if this is a Pungwe, a PEX, because it's also corner of Nyaleti and Kruger National Park is right there. So it actually would make sense. There's so much of a wind here. We actually, since we get here, seen them so much, they're looking around and probably alert or probably searching around for looking if they can see something from distance, because they are day hunter animal. Especially with this young one, they need to hunt quite often so that they will be able to feed them by regurgitating meat chunks will be all thrown out for them to eat whenever they kill. The young one may participate on the killing scene by eating, but in turn, when the meat all carcass done, they will squeal to their mother if it was not enough for them. And their mother will be able to throw out a little bit for them to eat. Again, they will hold back some of their chunks, which later they may do that. All members cooperate, regurgitate for these young ones, able to feed. We're gonna stay here. Hopefully they'll get to do something while we're around here.
Well, look who we found after almost an hour and a half, 2 hours of searching for these guys. The mother cheetah and her 2 cubs. She's walked about 4 or 5 kilometers since we saw her this morning, far away from where she was, and they have ended up on the Phinda airstrip, where it's pretty much the only tarred surface on the whole of Phinda, and they've come here, I think, because it's nice and open. I think the reason why they were walking around today was to try and find food, but look, judging by their bellies, which are very thin, I don't think they've been successful. And we actually haven't in this area seen a single Impala or Ngala or any antelope that they could possibly hunt, so I think they've been quite unlucky. These animals seem to be avoiding them. But I think they've been sleeping here for quite a while now. They might have actually I've only just come out here, because it's only very, very recently beginning cooler. They were probably under a tree for most of the day after they had walked here, and now they've lain out right in the open for us. You see the one on the right? He's actually sleeping, his eyes are closed, but he's still got his head up, looking around, or trying to look around as best as he can. Linda, I agree. These are such precious animals. It's just always amazing to see cheetah in the wild because there's so few of them left. And to see young cheetah being born in the wild is just amazing. Because every new cheetah that's born is so valuable. And there's a little female here and a little male. And hopefully one day they also will be able to breed and pass their genes on and keep the population hopefully growing. The cheetah is actually one of the only endangered animals whose range is actually expanding because of private game reserves in South Africa and throughout Africa that are actually starting to reintroduce cheetah. And most private game reserves in South Africa are part of what we call a meta population of cheetah. And there's about 400 individuals in that meta population, and they're considered, even though they're kind of geographically separate, but they're closed off from each other, we sort of simulate the cheetah being able to move between these areas by swapping cheetahs. We'll swap maybe a male cheetah with another private game reserve, and they'll bring one here, and in that way we simulate the spreading of genes. And in every sense, that population is one sort of genetically continuous population. So it's one of the more exciting conservation projects going at the moment. The South African cheetah meta population. We're starting to see these cheetah yawn, and they are sitting up and looking a little bit more alert by every minute that goes by. So we're going to stay with them and see what they get up to for the next hour or two. For now, we're going to send you off to another live location.
I just like it when a plan and the tracking just works. We've just got to this dam Prrivate, and these lions have just made their way also to the dam. It doesn't look like it's all of the pride though. We've just seen the four, one big female, a sub-adult female, and the two young boys coming to drink. So let's stick around and see what happens. They look very, very thirsty. So they must have walked quite over distance from where the tracks were starting to be fresher as we were trekking along earlier. I'm hoping it's either they take us to the rest of the pride or they continue on their journey of what made the whole pride split. Chances are it could have been hunting that made them split. So if that was the case, it would be interesting to see what happens. There's a bit of cloud cover coming over us, so that would also make it much conducive for these guys, actually, because then it means that the Kalahari would be much cooler for them, and we might get a bit of activity out of them. Just look at that skyline there, just closing up and making it by far very cool. So let's see what happens. Look, are they thunderstorms this time of the year? Yes, definitely. This would be where our rainy season starts, up until towards first week of February or into February. That's where our rainy season usually is. We might sometimes get one late rain into our April, and that would be it. But the interesting thing about the thunderstorms that we get here, they're almost electrical thunderstorms, if that makes sense. The lightning that you get and the sandstorms that you get here is immense. where you get these lightnings almost striking over the dunes and just making wonderful colors over the dunes, the oranges, the blues, the very bright lightnings themselves, the thunder, the roar of the thunder. Also, just it would rumble for at least a good 10-15 seconds that you hear this thunder rumbling. Sometimes even longer. So it can be very dramatical to see these storms come through. Myself and Dave were caught in a sandstorm about 2-3 weeks back, and that was an epic experience with the wind, the sandstorm coming, and we were just on the dune watching this coming over us. So yeah, it becomes a very fantastic kind of an experience. You can't really explain it. One has to kind of experience it. So very, very beautiful. How often do lions need water? Definitely every time after they have fed, which also would depend on what their previous meal had been. So obviously, the bigger the meal, the longer they can stay without having to feed. And the smaller the meal, it would mean then they would go hungry and have to hunt quite soon. So without that, they would probably be drinking once a day. They don't necessarily have to drink as much, but when they do get to water, they'll drink a lot. But also bear in mind that blood in itself carries iron or salt. So that is one thing that would also make them very, very thirsty, and hence they need to drink almost every time after they've fed, as because of that effect of the iron or the rich blood coming from their diet. So they'll need to definitely have to drink. One young female there is being pestered by flies. We'll stick with these lions and see what they get up to. While we stand by them, let's send you off to another very beautiful location somewhere in Africa.
Good luck, Obi. We're also doing the same here. We didn't actually move from this last position with this dog. And now it's all when they all get interested. So if they're going to go, because they're between two Waterhole here. But we're just going to see what they're going to do. If they're going to go down to drink, we're just going to follow them. And I don't think this adult, they'll follow the young one. They have a lot of energy still then. These are all here, those adults, they're the one that will lead all of them here. Just can't see one with a collar if it's a pungwe, a pex. So I'm just going to reverse a little bit, so hopefully we focus on this young one, that you see what they're all about. So all the Egyptian geese is on the far distances. This is all the impalas in a way distance. So I'm not sure these parents over here, they haven't really focused on hunting right now. Probably still too much hot. it's better wherever they go, especially if they're going to run down to the Waterhole by themselves. They got to make sure it's safe for that. Maybe the parents they'll follow up on them because they've got to worry about their young one wandering around far from them. If anything happened there, for in case there's a croc in the Waterhole, they don't have much of a skills how to tell, how to check around before they drink, maybe. And these adults over here also, they all stood up. Probably gonna follow their young one. Or they're gonna change position because they're now sons taking places. Or defecation taking place. Helen, you want to know if they're going to hunt before dark? Yeah, actually, it would be a very good idea for them to be able to hunt before dark because they actually, they don't actually do a lot of hunting at night, only when it's a full moon. And for that, it's not safe as well. So they don't actually prefer to hunt in the dark. If they have to hunt is going to take place once it's cool off. And now we're just going to focus on anything around them. You know, these antelope species, impalas, steenbok, duiker, they can surround in a big number. Such a big antelope like kudus, they were able to kill them. They're actually one of the, successful hunter, wild dogs. So I'm going to take another moment here to see if these dogs they were going to go down to drink eventually or not.
So we're still with these cheetah, also some successful hunters of their own, and every now and again when they hear noise, mom puts up her head, but the little cub on the right is almost always dead to the world. Oh look, she's rolling around a little bit, maybe she's a bit uncomfortable, giving her back a scratch and a stretch. And that little cub on the left is just sitting in that beautiful grass with the breeze blowing through it gently, and it's such a beautiful picture. But you can also see his head's drooping now, and try as he might, he can't keep it up. And I think he's just fallen asleep right there with his head lifted up. He might actually just catch himself and wake up again, shake his head, but he's fighting sleep. Even the one on the right, look, his head's falling over as well. He's out. Oh, he's just succumbed to it. Now his head is flat on the ground, just like his mother. And you can actually see now quite clearly his the cub on the right, how his belly is kind of really, really tucked. If he was full, that belly would be lying with almost like a soccer ball sized tummy full of meat in it. You wouldn't be able to see that hip bone that is currently sort of protruding much further than the belly. So they probably haven't eaten in about 2 or 3 days. If they have a big meal like an impala, an adult impala would feed all of them quite nicely. They'd be nice and full. They wouldn't need to hunt for another 3 days, I'd say. They might still hunt maybe a day after eating an impala if the opportunity presented themselves, because they never quite know when they're going to get another meal. So they're opportunistic and they'll eat whenever they can, but they can survive quite comfortably for 3 or 4 days after eating. But I think this is now probably about 3 days since their last meal, and they'll probably this afternoon or tomorrow morning very actively look to find game in this general area, because we have been driving around here quite a lot this afternoon looking for them before we found them, and we didn't see one Impala or one Ngala. So I think, like, animals sort of, as seasons go and come, they move to different areas, because the grasses in different area grow at different paces, and there might have been a bit more rain somewhere else within the last 3 or 4 days, which has attracted the animals away from here towards that grass, which is why we've seen such a lack of general game here, and in turn that will attract the cheetah to another area. So then this grass will have a chance to regrow, and it will rain here a little bit more, and then the animals will come back here. So it's very cyclic out here. Animals utilize the different areas sparingly. And it's all just nature's way of giving different areas a chance to rest and different plants a chance to grow and maintain the health of the ecosystem. So Lara, you've asked quite a very good question. Is it dangerous to make eye contact with some animals? And if you're talking about on game drive in the vehicle, generally no. The animals sort of see the vehicle as another sort of creature that it shares its landscape with. So the animals don't associate the vehicles with a threat, or whether they're predators. They don't associate us as prey, and the sort of herbivores don't see us as a predator or a threat. So they tolerate us and they treat us like any other big animal that moves around their landscape. They will give way to us if we drive straight at them, but they're not fearful of us, which is why we can get so close. And for the same reason, if they do make eye contact with us, it's not a threatening gesture from us to make eye contact with them, and they don't feel threatened, so it's not dangerous for them. They won't change their behavior. But if you're on foot, it is a different story. Animals behave very differently to you on foot. Generally, if they make eye contact with you, they've seen you, and then they are going to either run away, or if they feel threatened, they might give you a bit of a warning, maybe a warning vocalization, just to say, hey, don't come so close. The only animal that I know of that they say, that people that have been in the bush that I've spoken to say that you must never ever make eye contact with, is a leopard. Apparently if you come across on foot, if you make eye contact with it, it antagonizes it and it will react a little bit more defensively than usual. So you're meant to, if you get charged by a leopard or come across a leopard that's cornered, just lower your eyes a little bit. But I haven't heard the same for any other animal out here. Look at the beautiful white fur on the bottom of that cheetah's chin. It really stands out. So we're going to stay here with these cheetah and spend a little bit more time with them. And we'll send you off to another live location for now, but we're going to stick with these cheetah.
Welcome back to Tswalu Kalahari. Lions are now lying just on the edge of the water there. There's been a bit of self-love, a little bit of grooming here and there. So let's see what they are up to after this kind of grooming. You can see the boys on either end of the female there. It's still quite hot for them. Look at how they're breathing, mouths open, and just trying to get rid of that heat. And also by lying where they are now, just next to the water there, that sand would be a little bit cooler, and the breeze coming into them would help with cooling. But they look like they've also had something to eat in the last day or so. So, I mean, the bellies are not too shabby, not too empty. So it would be interesting to see if they do move from here. They might be taking us to where that potential kill was, and I'm thinking that's where the rest of the pride would be. Look at that big yawn, massive yawn there. So I'm really hoping these guys show us the rest of the pride. More grooming there. Very important. It's like reassurance when they do that. Just making sure and strengthening bonds amongst themselves. So, very good. Look at that.
Wonderful. So we have followed these young dogs. Oh, looks like all they're trying to do is trying to drink water. But what we've seen, their parents have actually moved slightly close to them. Like I mentioned earlier, that you got to be worried about them going down to drink all alone. No, it's just a little bit of a puddle of water, but there is a plenty of water on our left-hand side. We call this area Big Dam in Beblishoek, where there's a crocodile in this dam. I'm not sure, but there's a plenty of water. It should be, I think. These young ones still have a lot of time on their own, practicing their movement. And in this age, they will keep up with the rest of the packs when they are moving, but they haven't yet involved in hunting. That will only take place when they're anything from 2 years, and then from there they were able to participate, exercise their knowledge of helping the whole packs over here. Debbie, welcome to the beautiful shore. So you want to know how many dogs are here? I count 8 adults and the 7 youngest here. So, and I'm still can't be 100% sure if we're looking at Pungwe packs, since we know for sure those one have one with collar and a neck, unless if they actually been separated. And that way, if they happen to separate, it's all about communication. They make a few communication sounds where they will able to hook up again, especially it's got to be during the day, because they hunt in the day, they do a lot of movement in the day. At night they can move to get place to another, and in a full moon they're able to hunt when they can, when anything they come across. But it's better for them to hunt during the day because it's safer for them. They're more likely to run into big cats as lions at night. And they are kennels. They are dogs. We're not looking at the true cats here. understand cats is a different species. Lions, they move in group pride. Where leopard, they are very solitary. And it looks like these whole young one were able to make it. I'm not sure how many were there in their barn. Usually females should give birth to anything from above 7 upwards. Good afternoon, welcome to your beautiful show. I'm not sure how old these alpha and male and females are, but they usually wild dog live up to 20 years. We're talking about in captivity. We're out here in this wild, and we're looking at these dogs that we have seen back there, and they all look like all fully grown. Could be anything from 8 to maybe 12 years old. And is that the case? These alpha female and alpha male, they got to be above that, 18 years sometimes. The reason they don't make it up to 20 in the wild is so much of a problem with the dogs interfering their lives, which disease also can take place, most especially when that disease takes place and these adults, and they come pregnancy, when they deliver the baby also, this baby more likely to die due to the fact that how they feed the puppies when they throw the meat back to them from their tummy, and they actually get infected immediately. So then they're hooked up with the same disease as the parents. You always see all puppies die from that case. Or their habitation sometimes can be a problem with the wild dogs, especially where you have lots of other different cats, most lions. Population, when it's high in area, you're more likely to see less of wild dogs in that area. And where they are now, looks like there's a vehicle parked next to them there, provide a shade of these young one. So I'm going to stay put here, and then hopefully this dog able to make their movement while we're still in this area.
The big female has stood up, leaving these youngsters together, the young male and the young female. And now there's also that other young male decided to be on the one side of the dam. So they've kind of occupied the whole western side of the dam. Could be strategic, actually, that they do what they have done. Look at how far she has placed herself, almost by the entrance of the watering hole. And also looking out, not towards where the water is. So obviously she knows that the others are behind these youngsters. So that's an interesting positioning. She's obviously the most experienced of the four of them, and these youngsters would have a lot of catching up and learning to do. So that could also be why she's isolated herself like that. Just being opportunistic. Could a crocodile ambush these lions? Unfortunately, in the Kalahari, we do not have crocodiles. Our water capacity is not big enough to carry crocodiles. But in areas where there's crocodiles and lions are lying like that, you might get a crocodile trying to investigate, but I don't think it would be in an attempt to take a lion down. Unless the lion was trying to take the crocodile, which could happen. And obviously the crocodile will fight for its life. But in a case like this, no. In the Kalahari, we don't have crocodiles, but in places where there are crocodiles, the crocodile might come and try see what's at the edge of the water and mistake it for an impala or anything like that. So yes, it's a possibility, but nothing that really does happen on the norm. So yeah, it would be interesting to see one day when that gets documented. I know with leopard, there's been a few recordings where leopards go for crocodile and actually managing to take out crocodile. So yeah, with lion it would be an interesting concept to see what happens. The female has stood up and the guinea fowls are going mad in the distance there. Let's see what happens. Guinea fowls just gave her away there. She's walking away from the water, but the guinea fowls immediately as she stood, all that gave it away was the guinea fowls going mad. Obviously, with the guinea fowls making such a ruckus, it alerts all the other animals that could be in the vicinity, and some species do learn warning signs like these from other species. So off she goes into the distance, but we still have these three that would probably go. Amy, do lions ever break water to swim? Yes, but not in really the attempt of trying to cool down. So you see lions crossing rivers. You see lions actually chasing animals into water and actually killing inside water. I've seen it happen where lions take water buck right in the middle of a water, or kudu even for that matter, where the kudu would run into water and it's trapped like that. So they will get into water if needs be, but it's not necessarily an attempt to swim and keep cool. Actually, lions are not really fond of water. If you look at your cats, your leopard is more fond of water than your lions. They'll try avoid it. I mean, you see it also when they drink. They'll try put their feet where it's not as muddy and where it's not as wet, and just have this awkward position when drinking if need be. You know, so yeah, they do avoid getting wet if they can. But there are other cats, like I've just mentioned, the leopard, that wouldn't mind being wet. I think we're going to keep behind these four and see where they lead us to. So it's going to be interesting to see where they lead us. And while we do that, we'll take you off to another very beautiful location in Africa.
I'm currently following where this vulture is looking, and it doesn't appear to be looking at anything with great excitement. I saw one vulture, and then Niels saw another vulture, and we thought, well, you know, something must have died here, because there are two vultures well within a kilometre of each other. Such is the feeling of desperation in our hearts right now. As you can see, this vulture couldn't care less. It is a white-backed vulture, critically endangered, yet the most common one that we get here. And I'm certainly going to have a squiz about this place and check maybe that this vulture, or if this vulture hasn't perhaps got a head start on all the other vultures of the area. I was rather hoping I'd hear some sort of chewing of bones or something around here, but I've heard nothing of that sort. It's actually turned into the most pleasant afternoon because the temperature's not too hot. It's very pleasant. Being out here beneath the big blue vault of Africa. But otherwise all is quiet and peaceful here. Good. Well, I think we'll continue now. We have vultures just down there, and they are kind of looking into this area, so we'll see.
Thanks, James. Sometimes vulture, they're most likely to participate wherever there's a kill. Here we got, these dogs now went back to the very much same places where we got them first time, in this little shed over here. It looks like all the young ones have already drink, and they have come back close to the parents. But most of them are already up, so maybe it's a time they may actually able to move for us while we're with them. Well, here it's quite very much open. There was a view of a few impalas in the way distances, but I think they spot these young dogs when they were moving around here, and they all just vanish off. But there's a chance that would be more species of antelope arriving to take a drink. They're between two Waterhole here. Oh, they all stood up. There's something they were not too sure about. So size of prey species could be an impala. Would it suit a whole group of here members who are able to eat enough? If it's a steenbok, no, they won't have much. They have to deal with more hunting again after feeding on that. There's a bull elephant on a way distance. This is one of the visitors over here. Look at these male elephant feeding on.
Hello, everybody. I believe that we went to a tech loop. Haven't heard that term for about, 2 years. Anyway, here we are. We are still scratching around where these vultures were. And I had a Wahlberg's eagle alarm calling around here too. Now we've got 2 vultures now. There's one there. I think that's the same one we had. One on the tree next door. And just down in this dip, we've got some angry sounding Wahlberg's eagles. So I don't know. Actually off towards the left of the eagles calling. It's always a good idea just to stop and sit and listen for a little while. See if you get lucky. At the moment all I can hear is the sound of the flies buzzing around my head. Now, of course, a vulture, when it doesn't feel like flying anymore, is going to rest somewhere. And often another vulture will see one vulture resting and come down and have a rest next to it. And then desperate people like me will assume that there is meat in the offing, when in actual fact there probably isn't. Let's move on.
We now got these dogs all now stood up. Most of them, it looks like they're going to head a western direction from here. And they're all just trying to spread around here. So probably this is how the beginning of the hunt is going to be about. So they're all busy looking around in the edge of this clearing here. If there is any impalas, anything available for them. And the young one's still going to follow right behind the far end. There's this adult forage right in the front. So like I say, they're between 2 water stations, so it looks like they're going to go to the one on the slightly southern side of here. So we're going to slowly move in that direction. I'm not sure if they're going to take a drink or they're going to continue hunting from there. So the hunting, when they chase, everyone involved in chasing except for these young ones, they still have to hold it back. They're going to follow slightly. If here there isn't a killing, a lot of antelope make distress call for all members to know. Sinek, you want to know if this young one is any chance they might actually get wounded during the hunt. So if they actually push too much on competition of a hunt in this age, it may happen sometimes, but they're more likely to hold back as a parent on chase. And then this is actually sometimes also can be vulnerable to them, because then there's no adult looking after them. So if there are lions approaching them, because now we talk about 2 scavengers, and lions are far too big compared to these dogs. And then, of course, it's not going to be a good idea that, because all these young ones will all get killed. Those can able to run away from the scene and they will survive, but they're more likely to get injured. And they're not actually involved yet in hunting, so they won't going to be getting harmed from hunt itself, unless if they try push too much and on getting into a hunt. As you can see how they now taking their own decision. It looks like they not agree with the whole parents since they're moving west. They're probably still sniffing around here. And they know exactly the duty for the parents is to provide food for them. But also there is a system. If there's a call they're going to make for these puppies to stay behind forever here, one will turn around back to them as a guard, and then the rest will go forage. But if they're going to move with them, then it looks like they have to keep up with the whole packs, these young ones. They're going, I think, behind the Egyptian geese, I think. The Egyptian geese pushing away from them. They're going close to that big bull elephant, more likely to be chased off. The elephant hasn't yet realized there's a dog around this area. So I'm gonna stay put here, keep an eye on these dogs.
So we have made our way down towards Ndlovu Dam. We did bump into the buffalo herd, and I hope that they make their way here, but we haven't got any elephants or buffalo for you. What we're looking at seems to be a juvenile, I think. Is it a juvenile Natal spur fowl? It's difficult to tell, but just from the colouring, it looks like it. The only other thing that it could be is a crested francolin, a juvenile of one of those as well. So I'm just trying to have a look. I actually can't remember when I last saw youngsters of these two particular birds, but it does look like it's going to get a red beak. I don't know, maybe the birding fundies can help me here. I'm deciding. I'm now scrolling on my bird app. Crested francolin, where are you? I just want to have a look if there's a juvenile picture. What first sprung to mind was indeed I think I'm going to stick with a Natal spur fowl. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. I'm not very good at birding. But anyways, what it is doing, though, this I can tell you is 100% true, is it's digging through elephant dung. Now, I'm hoping that the crested guinea fowls, not crested, helmeted guinea fowls, come down here, because we have had some fantastic sightings of them of late too. And there's also been a squirrel that's been doing its business and looking for all sorts of delicious morsels to find in the dung. But very busy nonetheless. But I would like to hear from all of you if you think it is a Natal, if it's going to be a Natal spur fowl or a crested francolin. Do you know what else I'm looking at is its legs. So with the spur fowls and the francolins, obviously the spur fowls have got a double set of spurs on the back of their legs, whereas the francolins have only got one set. That'll be another indication. But of course it's hiding behind a log right now, which is not really helping. And then the crested francolin also has a white supercilium that goes over the top of its eye, and it kind of looks like there's that sort of present, if you look very carefully. But what's throwing me off is that the beak just looks a little bit pink. And that's quite typical of the Natal spur fowl. Anyways, I await in anticipation for all the birding specialists to get back to me. But you can see it's a youngster. It doesn't look like it's got a very well-developed tail just yet. And I'm surprised that it's on its own. And it's not stuck around with its family group. But anyways, luckily we know it's not going hungry. There's plenty of things to eat in there from various seeds, but of course they change their diets quite a bit too. And with all the moisture content coming out of that dung, as we have seen over the last little while, there is no shortage of insects. But a quick scrape of the feet to open up and get down towards some of that moist dung. You can see it's not okay. I think that's probably elephant dung from yesterday, as the outer side of it has dried quite a bit. And now I'm sure lots of little dung beetles in there, or I don't know what other little beetles and things could be around. but nice to see. It's nice to have a little bit of a challenge with birds every now and then, especially of the juvenile kind, because they can be quite tricky. Very itchy face, though. It must be maybe little midges or things going up into its nose. Oops, off you go back to Djuma.
Thanks, Taylor. So these puppies now, they have caused trouble. They went close to that bull elephant. All he does is chase back to them. So, but they're all still waiting on a far distance, having a look. They might actually have a go again. What we've seen, that elephant came out of that drainage line, charging them, trumpet once. This is all about, just to get them off. It makes now the elephants worried so much that not knowing what happened here. So I think it's something to do with the safety. Even though elephants way too big compared to these dogs, but they still worry that they are carnivore species, and of course they eat meat. In that way, there is no cooperate between these two species. Still giving kind of like a untrusted behavior against them. You can see these puppies now, they're running back slightly to these elephant, turning around. Charge. Get away, dog. Better get away, dog. So you feel much irritated by these young dogs around here. And the adult, they have moved away. Probably watching from distance, but I don't have a visual of them. And this behavior sometimes could be something that they never actually consider danger too much, especially when it comes to an elephant, or could be in a rhino, where they would know so much of cats, like lion, leopard. If there were lions here, they would be just vanished, already gone. So they find themselves playing with a big animal because they haven't recognized the danger from that animal yet. Stuck in bed. I agree with you. This is really an epic sighting here. Seeing such a big animal like this chasing the young dogs, and they never move away permanently, and they're still staring at that big animal, elephant. It's actually unusual. I might say you're right. And this elephant is not actually having a good time anymore. Until these happen, they're just going to go, away from them, or he's going to go away from them. But he's going to keep an eye every time for a couple of hours, not knowing what is coming behind him every time he moves. And it's actually nice and open here. where they have a visual of the big animal, also big animal have a visual of their young little dog. But all that elephant now is doing is just freezing there, looking at this dog. So any chances this dog move away, then he will be free again. It's such a harder for this big animal like this to chase after this little dog. Just a little turn, and then you miss them with such a speed that we saw him picking it up like that. Impressive speed. Elephant can keep up at about 40 kilometers an hour. But all he's seen was just the dust. When they run, that's all about their doing. They move faster, and that's how they run. They don't jump like what you see on antelope or cats do. Elephants won't do that. Looks like he's gonna move away peacefully. Jack, so you want to know if dog laying down there's a showing of a submission. So usually depending on the weather, or if it's too hot, when they're in a shade, it's all about resting. When they find them on the road, and then of course they lie on the road, it means that probably they've been on the move. And this is all about taking it easy for maybe 5 minutes before they will go again. But technique hunting take place when they do that, sometimes able to got themselves a chance to hear what's around them. But today, the rest of the adults here, they have moved, I think, permanently. I'm not sure if they're behind these tall grasses in there. We'll investigate. We just want to make sure this elephant move away, so there is no disturb between these two species. But we're eventually going to go see if there's adults still around there. Just a beautiful sound is coming out now, kind of a dusk and dawn when the sun goes down. All you hear all type of birds communicating, such as a guinea fowl. So I'm going to drive close enough to look if there's still the parents of these puppies around here, and then hopefully we'll get them around.
Good afternoon, everybody, and a very stripy welcome to andBeyond Ngala. I've been driving in the west today looking for some different animals, and we happened upon this beautiful dazzle of zebra. It's absolutely incredible to see them like this. They've been very relaxed in the shade, walking around feeding. My name is Tessa. I'm going to be your guide today at andBeyond Ngala. Behind the camera we have Owen. So it's actually really sweet. My niece Freya asked if there was anything I could find, it would be a herd of zebra. And so if you have a look at them now, there's actually quite a few together. And it's amazing to see how they change in the light. That one's having a bit of a scratch. It's found a branch and it's busy scratching its chest and its stomach. But it's incredible because the zebras in the shade look more black with white stripes, and the zebras in the sun look more like white with black stripes, which is quite incredible. But I absolutely love seeing zebra. They're one of my favorites, especially because of how bold their markings are. There's nothing else like them out here. So it's easy to see why they're a favorite of so many people. So they're moving through the shade at the moment, feeding. And they're actually headed towards a waterhole, far in the distance. I think we're going to stick with them and see what happens. Very special start to our drive.
Cool. So we get close enough to this baby dog here, which looks like this is actually stationary where they have been left, and I can't see down in the drainage line enough whether the parents are still looks like one is only visual of one right up in the hill, but keeping an eye in this babies here. And now, since this is actually very nice weather for them, and this is actually a wide open area, what this dog will do, they will just gonna maybe sometimes move, spread around a bit, since they actually knew that there was an antelope around. It was running around there during the course of the day. And sometimes it's actually benefit for most carnivore species when they stick around near waterhole long enough. Eventually, the antelope come and drink. And this is the only time this antelope get hunted or get killed. And this little one, they will have it otherwise at dinner. Different to most leopards, so it's not actually close related in terms of where they're not actually even close to a leopard relation. Where a leopard, when they feed, they pluck the fur off, where these dogs, and they get a hold of the prey species, all they do, they just tear it apart. All you see just the guts come out and all intestine spread around. They quickly see vulture respond immediately, because also vulture, they use the thermos from way off. Those are in a high sky also. As long as it's an open sky, wind blows slightly, then they're actually able to sense that, immediately respond to whatever died in the area. So sometimes this is what makes them be in such a problem of getting killed by other predators, because they don't feed like other animals, and they're not stronger like lions. Lions that do the same, but they are strong cats that will able to handle the situation. So I'm gonna wait here. Hopefully these parents will get back from that little drainage line.
Found an elephant, two elephant bulls that are here in complete and absolute peace and acceptance of their lot in life, which, if you're an elephant bull, is really not a bad lot, I must say. I suppose it depends where you live, but if you live here, it's pretty good. Not many stresses, normally plenty to eat, lots and lots of water to drink. Marula trees come January time. Freedom to move over 2.5 million hectares, 3.5 million hectares. Must be quite nice. suppose the diet gets a little boring. Not a huge amount to read. But other than that, you know, if you can calm your mind, it's perfect.
Sadie, come in.
No, Sadie, age 12. It is not unusual to see an elephant on its own. The big bulls are often on their own, but they're also quite often in a little group. And this guy's got a friend. He's just behind us. We can't see him right now. We have given up looking for the leopard around Torchwood, and we're going towards reports of another leopard's tracks coming into Djuma on the southern boundary, so we'll pop across there for the last, 40 minutes or so of the drive and see if we can't get lucky. Would be great. Would be so exciting. This chap possibly going into must. He doesn't smell like he's in full must, but he might be going into must, as evidenced by the stress, obviously, he's experiencing, which is causing his temporal glands to stream, and also, of course, the fact that he has extended his fifth leg for our benefit. Melinda, really, the learning and how to age an elephant is an almost alchemical science. You basically just need to spend time around them and time around them with people who know what they're talking about. That's how I learned how to age elephants. And so I don't actually know rightly how accurate I get with elephants. I would have said this guy was in the region of 25. I don't think he's particularly old. He's not, and the only reason I say that is that he's not very big. It's the width of his head, it's the shape of his body, but it's actually very difficult to describe unless you were sitting here with me. And unless you saw lots of elephants. I suppose, his forehead is not particularly wide yet, but he's filled out a little bit. He's not quite lanky as some of the teenagers are, but he hasn't filled out nearly as much as he's going to. Remember, elephants keep growing until the day they die, just about, and so, he'll get a lot taller as well. Oh, let's quickly go back to Ngala.
Welcome back to andBeyond Ngala, everybody. We have been driving along from where we had that beautiful dazzle of zebra. We've got an absolutely stunning sunset starting to happen here. And in fact, we've been incredibly lucky. We've actually just seen 2 honey badgers that were going through some elephant and rhino dung. And they've just run off into that sunset. But it was absolutely incredible to see. I haven't seen honey badgers in quite a while. And they're such a ferocious predator. So they went off into that thicket there. We're hoping that maybe they come back. It's incredible how fast they can disappear into this grass. Absolutely stunning, stunning day here on Ngala and beyond Ngala. So I think what we're going to do is myself and Owen will stay here, see if maybe they decide to come back and just enjoy the sunset. Let's hope we get lucky.
right, good luck with the honey badger. Here we're still with these dogs and elephant. Now we see elephant in the background. All he does, he ran across from the other side there, and then was a visual of the adult dog that ran towards us. That is pretty much the one that was left behind by the rest of the member as a, there it is. Looks like the rest of the member have moved off. Do their hunt. So that is going to be a watch for the whole of the young one over here. Anything happen, that older one is going to be immediately make a plan if there is a danger for this young one to lead them away immediately. And that elephant is still a little bit worried about the dog around here. He wasn't gonna get away. He's still kind of like freak out. This behavior sometimes take place. Impala can do that sometimes when there's an open area enough where the lion's in a far distance lying down, and then all they do, they just watch that danger animal, but they always take it easy finally, but they're always keeping an eye in the danger, where it's always for the prey species. The only problem is when they don't see what kind of danger is. But once they have a visual of the danger, sometimes they slightly settle down, and all they have a plan in case there's any charge or chase take places. And that elephant is walking actually backwards. I'm not sure if there's more dog in front of him or he's just doing it for purposes or it will be final. All members of the adult will return back into this area. Even though they haven't killed anything, but they will come back. Meat do the dog need? Well, this is actually whole packs, and then for the packs like this we count 8 adults here and a 7 young one. So 1 Impala day or 2 Impala day would be great. So if there's a small antelope like the Great Dagger, they would need at least 5 of them or 6 of them, and that Great Dagger only weigh about 14 kilogram, 12 kilogram. That would actually able to sustain a little bit of the size of a tummy. So, but there are 2 Impala day to make it. Remember with this young one, he's adult. They always feed enough, but then at the end, they have to give it back to their puppies by regurgitate. Eventually, finally, they have nothing left on their tummy, makes them to hunt again, and the digestion take place very quickly. So each dog would actually consume anything from 6.8 kilograms sometimes, or less. Yeah, there is the young one now squealing for the parent returning back here. So every time the parent return back, they're expecting a meat. To be delivered by regurgitating, but I don't think they have killed anything. They just left, and now I just saw another vehicle following them from the backside, heading our way. Looks like they're gonna start the trouble again. They're not actually going to their parents. Looks like they're going to someone else, probably direction of that bull elephant there again. And the poor elephant now is making his way away from here. It's not actually a trusted area for that bull anymore. He'll probably choose another spot to be. So I'm gonna stay put here, follow this dog.
Welcome back to Tswalu Kalahari, just to show you how quickly weather can change here and the storms can brew up. All you're seeing is the change in the atmosphere there with the dust coming up. Look at that. The mountain almost disappearing right in front of your eyes, and this wind is blowing from the north going south, but it's a heavy wind. Look at that. As Dave goes back, that's how open actually the sky has been, and you'll see when he starts rolling, it just changes completely. That mountain that you just saw just now has disappeared, gone. Beautiful. Rex, do we have tornadoes? I have never experienced a tornado. We do get sandstorms though, where the wind is blowing and howling, and you get these particles of sand everywhere, and it's like a sand blast when it comes through, but very amazing to experience such. Look at that. Wow, we can already start feeling the first drops. One or two, nothing hectic, but it's coming. We can feel it. We're gonna try see if we can get out of the storm before we are drenched, and while we do that, we're gonna be sending you off to another very beautiful location in Africa.
You better do that, Obi, otherwise get wet. So now the dog only hear the noise on the background, so they all chase one another. So that sound is probably they're all behind one of the adults, hoping for the meat to be thrown out for them to eat, even though maybe they run out of the meat on their tummy. And these young ones, when they're hungry, they always push so much to their parents to get. So I'm gonna keep up with them because they're actually slightly far from us. They're already on the other side of the bank, and then I'm just gonna drive around to see if I can get a closer look at them again. It's getting very much. And then once it's dark, we're going to leave them because they have puppies here and they're not actually night animal. So we're going to take another look at them there. And then there's still a little bit of a sun a bit, so I think it's still allowed to be with them. It's actually nice now where it's all cool off slightly, the temperature drop pretty much, and this is how they started to get excited of getting around the hunt a bit.
Well, you guessed it, it's that time of the evening again where the buffalo come down to drink. We see them every day, twice a day, kind of just like how you get to watch us live on safari all the time. But most of the herd has already moved on off. It's so funny though how in the afternoon they come sprinting down to the water. I suppose it's been quite a few hours since they last had a drink and a cool down. It must be one of their favorite parts of the day, I would say. Is that a cow, that one standing right in the middle, BK, that one over there? She looks heavily pregnant. Yes, yeah, you got her. Look at how round her belly is. Now, obviously, buffalo are rather large creatures and are notoriously for being quite fat, but she looks severely pregnant. Look at that. Careful, girl. Steady now. You can see how round her midsection is. There's actually quite a few cows in this herd that are pregnant. So maybe some exciting times to come. It looks like her mammary glands, her udders are nice and swollen. It's a bit difficult to see from here though, and the fact that the light has faded quite a bit, but something to look out for. And hopefully, I actually don't know how far along she is, but it takes, I think it's about 11 months or so if I'm not mistaken. There's a gestation period for buffalo. And look at that big bull right at the back. That looks a bit like a gargoyle as he's coated himself in mud, shining a nice golden color. See, look at them. They're all so excited. I love it. For those of you that know me, know I've had some horrific encounters with buffalo, and they are not my favorite creature, just because they always seem to try to want to murder me. But hey, that's just how it goes out here in the bush. But when they come down to a watering hole, there's something quite magical about it, and especially to see them have a bit of a spring in their step. To go from being super grumpy all the time to actually look like they're having a bit of fun. We see it with the elephants all the time. It's not difficult for them. But I think the buffalo struggle to spring a smile every now and then. And up the hill they go. Look at them. It's quite entertaining. And I don't know why they get into these moods. I don't know what brings it on. It's quite fascinating though. I really would love to be some of these animals for a day. Look at that bull. Maybe he's being stung by something though. There are lots of biting insects, and there are black flies that follow these buffalo around, and BK and myself have been bitten by a few of them this morning and this afternoon. In fact, they're horrible. So maybe one was biting him near the nether regions, and that's why he was bucking and bronking like that. But a lovely afternoon. And now, from here, I have no idea where these buffalo go, because they vanish. Once they go over that damn wall, they're never to be seen again until tomorrow morning, when they come back around and do the same thing. But as soon as darkness falls, I think they'll have some relief from the heat, and of course the insects. Not much though. It only lasts a few hours. The sun is rising so early before it all starts again. Now, we've been sitting here at Ndlovu Dam. Obviously, we knew we were going to see elephants, we knew we were going to see buffalo, but we were hoping that the male leopard we caught a glimpse of this morning was making his way in this direction. But I think with the big breeding herd of buffalo that have come stampeding through here, our chances might be a bit slim. Maybe he'll come this evening. We'll get a visitor. And we're still on the lookout for Lagatha the lion, who we haven't seen for quite some time. And the last time I had her tracks were doing her normal route where she roams around she comes from the west, she goes down to the east, she does a loop in towards Buffalo Delta, and that's sort of on like the southeastern fence line, and then she comes around to Ndlovu Dam. So who knows? I reckon she's due for a visit too, maybe this evening or tomorrow morning. But we're going to continue to do what we do best here at Pridelands and stick around this particular watering hole, because time and time again it proves that it is productive. Hey, and why change what isn't broken? We don't need to fix it. It works quite well. Having a scratch. Itchy ears, I'm sure. Where's the oxpeckers to do the work for you, buddy? Hi, CNAC. Also a long time since I've last heard from you. You've asked about what birds are found around watering holes. Well, when a big herd of buffalo come down, you'll definitely see oxpeckers. Except for this evening. I actually didn't see one oxpecker. Not that we were really looking for them. But birds that you would typically find around watering holes, which there are none of this afternoon, is there's normally a grey heron that likes to live at Ndlovu Dam. So we'll just talk about birds specifically that I've seen here at Ndlovu Dam. There's the blacksmith lapwings, of course. There are buffalo weavers, which are nesting up in this, what was once a tree that was alive. You can see the beautiful nest, and you might even still see their silhouetted figures right up at the top. I'm actually going to sit quietly for just a second, because maybe you'll be able to hear them too. Maybe you heard them there. They are chatting away. So they like to build their nests on obviously these massive trees, and typically in the middle of a watering hole. And that's for protection. But of course, you're going to find lots of other will hang around here. There's even a pair of lilac-breasted rollers that live in Ndlovu Dam. We've had European bee-eaters flocking recently about watering all the water and swooping down and taking a drink. There's always fork-tailed drongos. These are, of course, not specific water birds. We haven't even touched on that just yet. But from little grebes we've seen occasionally here. We have seen the spoonbills come down. We've seen yellow-billed storks. My goodness, woolly-neck storks. Honestly, the list is endless. I can just sit here and name half of Southern Africa's birds that come down to the watering hole, because most of them, of course, need to drink. But there are a few that utilize the water. Obviously, the buffalo weavers that we're looking at right now, they aren't water birds. They're not catching fish or frogs. But like I said, it's a nice spot for them to nest all the way up top, and hopefully things like snakes will be deterred by the water and won't be able to slither all the way up the trunk of that tree and get inside their nest. And of course, we know that most of the cat species, especially in the low-veld area, aren't too fond of water. Well, here where there's no massive river system, so if they can avoid the water, they can. The biggest threat to these birds is probably going to be something like a gymnogene, or the other name is an African harrier hawk.
We have the most beautiful sunset here at andBeyond Ngala tonight. It's actually just setting behind the Drakensberg Mountains at the moment. You can see that gorgeous orange and red light. But even better than that, while we were looking at the sunset, we happened upon two young male lions. And we actually have no idea which pride these two young males are from. There's no other lions around. It's just these two. And you can see they're still quite young. They've only just started getting their manes on the top of their heads. So this particular young male is actually quite dark already. The other one is actually about to walk over. Oh no, he's just changing position. And this is an incredible find because we don't actually know which pride they belong to. And it's just such a special time of day for us to be with them. I think these two are around 2 years old or so. And based on where they are, I would guess that they might be from the Mbiri pride or maybe from a breakaway pride. But they're actually looking off in that direction because there's a herd of elephants that's moving through towards us. But what an incredible way to experience a sunset with two young male lions. So it's very likely that maybe they got kicked out of the pride, and so that's why they're on their own. They're at that age now where they need to start becoming independent. We're going to sit here with them and enjoy the sunset. Isn't that absolutely stunning?
Here we have got some impala. We were originally arrested by them because they were looking very concernedly in a particular direction, and I thought, we're in for it now. And then I think, in factual fact, what they were looking at was that ram, who's clearly been causing some trouble with them. But you can see they're not looking particularly chilled out, except that some of them are eating, which means that if there is a predator around, it's highly unlikely to be about to leap upon one of them, unless one of them is about to die. But I think it was the ram that was causing trouble. The sun has set now on the Lowveld. Another beautiful evening awaits us. Star-filled, no doubt. There's lots of lovely night sounds, crickets and frogs. Maybe the odd sawing leopard. If we're really lucky, a roaring lion, grunting hippo. And always the lovely sound of the cicadas. Hello, Jenna. No, I haven't had any updates on Shidulu's cub. I know Shidulu was seen about 2 days ago, but I don't think anyone's seen her cub. And that's okay. The cub's little. I'm sure it's been safely denned, or I hope it's been safely denned. But I haven't heard anything further. And I am in touch with Saber, who's in the west at Simbambili. And I have heard nothing about her. Sibuyi crossed on to Djuma today, briefly, and then crossed straight back again down south. So she was with her 2 babies on the reserve just south of Treehouse Dam, basically. Very pleasant little impala sighting we're enjoying here. At least the impalas have come out to see us on Saturday evening. Hello, impala. Yes, I definitely think it was him. It was harassing the ladies. There's a herd of elephants crossing the road way in front of us there, Niels. It's quite a nice shot. Except that I think they're probably going to have finished. No, they've all gone. There are more of them there. Look at that. Very nice. Don, it depends entirely on your idea of defense. An impala is defenseless in so much as it is unable to fight off a predator using some kind of weaponry. I have seen an impala try and bite. In fact, one tried to bite me once when I was pulling it out of the mud. But other than that, no, they don't really have a weapon. They'll kick. They'll certainly kick out, and they'll try and avoid being eaten by kicking. That baby impala we watched with Talamba did that yesterday. So, they're not totally defenseless, but their greatest defense is vigilance and speed. And those 2 things make them very, very difficult to catch. If they were defenseless, you'd find them draped from every tree in the Lowveld. with leopards just going from one rotting carcass to the other. So they are not completely defenseless. They can't stand and fight, but they are very fast. They have got extremely good senses, and because they're in a group, they're very good at seeing predators. So, no, I wouldn't say that they're defenseless at all. Lovely sight there of the Drakensberg Mountains. Ethan, the average lifespan of the Impala is about 400 years, so they do live quite a long time. No, that's not true. They live about 12 years maybe, is about the average, apparently. Again, it's difficult to say because very few are followed from the day they're born to the day they die. So those sorts of records generally come from animals that are in captivity, and conditions in captivity are notoriously unlike conditions in the wild. And so you'd expect them to live longer in captivity than you would in the wild. But I'm not entirely sure. Well, I mean, I can tell you what I've read. I've read about 12 years. I'm not sure that I would believe that as the gospel truth.
Welcome back to andBeyond Ngala, everybody. It seems to be a very good day for elephant and predator interactions. So this is the herd of elephants that are in the same sighting as these two young male lions. And I don't think they're aware of the lions yet because they're just ambling along feeding. There's a little young one. And especially being a breeding herd, I think if they knew the lions were here, the reaction would be different. That mother wouldn't be as calm and just walking along looking for food. But the lion has been paying quite close attention to them as they're walking past. It's absolutely stunning scenery where we are, one of my favorite spots on the whole of andBeyond Ngala. With that mountain range in the background you can see for kilometers. Absolutely stunning. So the one young male lion has actually gone completely flat. He's having a bit of a nap. Sharon, elephants definitely do have feeling on their skin. It is quite thick, but they will be able to feel if something is hurting them, maybe like a thorn or even a scratch or anything like that. So yes, they definitely do have feeling in their skin, even though it is a lot thicker than ours. But being so nice and thick, it does mean that it is more resistant to things like thorns and scratch marks. But a claw of a lion, for example, would definitely be able to penetrate at least the top few layers of that skin, and they would be able to feel it as well. So it's very important that any animals can feel what is happening on their skin in case there's something like pain or intense heat, and it helps them protect themselves and move away from whatever that threat is. You can see this one starting to fall asleep now as well because the elephants have moved off a bit further. Absolutely stunning how the light is catching the tips of his ears and the tips of his mane. Craig, my all-time favorite animal is definitely a wild dog, but a leopard is a very close second. That being said, though, I think every single animal is absolutely fantastic. I've been an animal lover since I was a baby, especially in the Kruger Park. I have a massive passion for all wildlife in Africa. And I think it's very special to be in any sighting with any wild animal. Being close to a wild animal is an incredible feeling. The elephants are still moving off slowly towards the sunset. They definitely have not noticed the lions. You can hear some zebras calling in the background. Some birds doing their final call for the night. Jay, that is a fantastic question. Lions are actually not monogamous, so they've got quite an interesting dynamic where two dominant males would possibly even have a few prides that they're dominant over, and they would mate with any of those females in those prides, and as they take over the prides, they'll mate with as many females as they can. The females as well, if a new male takes over the pride, they're not loyal to the old male. They will mate with the new males in order to protect themselves. So they're definitely not monogamous. These two males are a bit young for mating and taking over prides, but it might be possible that maybe in 3 or 4 years they might be big enough, if they've survived, to start taking over a pride and start mating. Something's caught his attention. He's listening and looking. So his mane is actually a little bit bigger than the other male. There's actually a herd of impalas off to our right. That's what's caught his attention. And he's not looking like he's about to start stalking. I think he's just taking in his surroundings and being aware of what's around him. If the opportunity arises, they might try and hunt impalas, but at the moment they're still looking very relaxed. So we're going to stay here with these two young males and see what happens. Those elephants have moved off, and we'll see whether the impalas come a little bit closer.
Here we have got another elephant bull. Elephants are our lot today. We are not going to complain about that. This particular bull was feeding on a termite mound. He had mounted it and was sort of staring imperiously down on all below him. Not that an elephant of that size isn't able to stare imperiously down on all below him when he's standing on the ground. And there the pinkening sky has framed our elephant bull, along with 2 marula trees. The wind gently wafting the leaves. And he's eating on the termite mound, as I've told many of you before, because the grass there is more nutritious than it might be in other places. My English has gone for a ball of chalk today. I apologise. I'd put him at about 5 years older than the one we saw before, so I'd say he was about 30. But I could be quite wrong. No butterfly. Well, I mean, they do and they don't. Elephants will sometimes play with each other's tails, but they don't hold each other's tails when they walk in a line. I remember, I forget who this was. I remember watching somebody auditioning or interviewing, I'm not sure what you call it, I guess it's an audition, to be a presenter once, and watching elephants, and there was a little calf that didn't have its tail anymore, and he said, no, you know, that elephant's had its tail pulled off by a friend. They often do that. They often pull each other's tails off. It's absolute garbage. I'm sure that it had a tick wound that festered and then the tail would have dropped off. So no. You'll see little ones sometimes tugging on each other's tails or touching each other's tails, but it doesn't seem to be either a following mechanism or a source of great entertainment for young elephants. Certainly not for big ones. Big ones really don't care. Oh, the things we've seen over the last 5 and a bit years, nearly 6 years now. You can just hear the gentle swishing of his tail. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The old flap of his ear. One or two babblers who've decided that they're not quite ready to go to bed yet. The typical sounds of the fork-tailed drongos, they're often the last to go to bed. Of the diurnal birds, that is. Often you find them sitting on the road, which is quite interesting. I noticed that when I lived up near Palabua. Another lamentable low-felt settlement. A very pleasant way to spend our last minute here on drive together. We will, of course, see you tomorrow, yet again, at 05:30. And I hope that wherever you happen to find yourself in the world, you will be drawing some sort of comfort from nature, some sort of connection with the wild, from whatever nature you can find, be it virtually or just a bit of grass growing through a crack on the pavement. It's very good for the human psyche, I feel. Thank you for your questions and comments. Thank you for your patience. And we'll see you tomorrow, of course, as always, at 05:30. Until then, stay safe and happy wherever you are.
Yeah. Yeah.